happiness means to a large conglomerate. Many of you may be aware of RPG. The faces that you see on the screen, the smiling, cherubic faces that you see are all real employees of ours. And, the journey that began on happiness started in 2016 when we rehashed our company's vision statement. Like most of the companies, we had a very complex vision statement, which nobody remembered. It was on a plaque behind the CEO's desk. But if you touch somebody in the middle of the night and woke them up and asked them what the vision statement is, not many people would remember. I think it's because over the years, certain vision statements get disconnected from what is the reality in the company. So we did an exercise where we rehashed our vision statement and we tried to make it authentic in terms of what we are good at. So the vision statement goes like this. It's 4 parts. So it says unleash talent, touch lives, outperform. After all, we are a commercial organization. Unless we make profits, we can't be of use to either ourselves or society or the community. And lastly, it says and be happy with a smiley emoji. And I think we are the only company probably in the world which has a smiley emoji in its vision statement. A year later, we launched our tagline, which is Hello Happiness. Now, a lot of us, and that you see flashing on the screen right now, and we kept thinking, how do we convert this into something real, something authentic? Because happiness as a term, as a word, is being used so much nowadays. And even when we launched Hello Happiness, there was a soft drinks major who said, when you open a bottle of ours, you are uncorking happiness, and so on and so forth. So we actually sat down to think about how do we actually bring happiness as a walking, talking concept that we can live and breathe across our today 35,000 colleagues in 180 countries in the group, and in a very diverse work environment, mind you, ladies and gentlemen. We have various companies. Many of you will be aware of Seat Tires. We have KC, which is an L&T kind of infrastructure EPC company. We have Zensar, which is IT services company based in the US. We have RPG Life Sciences, which is pharmaceutical. And we have Harrison's Malayalam, very, very interesting company down south, which is a plantation company, a 100-year-old company, which grows essentially tea and rubber. So to make this into a living tagline, what we did is we went and asked our 35,000 colleagues, saying, listen, folks, what is it that you define as happiness? Because happiness is like nirvana, right? I mean, it means so many things to so many people, and it's very difficult to put your finger on what it can mean for a large corporation like ours. So we went and asked 35,000 people, and about 6,000 people responded, which I can tell you is a damn good response in today's times when people have very low attention spans and people are bored responding to surveys. 6,000 is not bad. But more importantly, we did 250 plus inciting interviews with our leadership. Now, customer inciting is something which all of you may be aware of. We use the same technology in HR called employee inciting. Now, this is qualitative, deep, and it's very anecdotal, the exact opposite of statistical sampling with which all of us have grown up with. Now, I did, for example, the inciting interview with Harsh Goenka, our chairman, because his family has been managing this group for about 200 years. He's the 7th generation entrepreneur. And I asked Harsh, saying, listen, Harsh, what does happiness mean to you as the chairman of this very diverse global corporation? And that response was staggering. I mean, what we got from the 6,000 people, including the 250 plus leaders, was staggering. And it took us many months of sifting and word art and taking the help of experts to kind of arrive at what people are defining as our happiness kind of framework. And I must tell you an interesting set of conversations we had with many people. We spoke to a number of consultants who said, they will work with us on happiness, but we realized that most of them were actually kind of experimenting with the whole concept and they didn't have any deep happiness practice. And I'm not saying this to, in a critical manner or whatever. I think it's just that the evolution of this whole concept of happiness at the corporation level was still kind of fairly unevolved and at its nascent stage. So we formulated this happiness framework ourselves. So basically what it does, it looks at some 6-7 pillars of focus areas. And within each pillar, we evaluated about 35 elements which constitute what happiness means to those people. For example, there is a pillar called I feel connected. Now, I feel connected means many things. When you walk in on Monday morning, how do you feel about the company that you're working in? How do you relate to your co-workers? Is there a culture of openness that I can disagree? Dissent is encouraged, and yet I can go out and have a beer in the evening with my boss or my colleagues. So we went down to that nitty-gritty level and came out with a framework. We then looked for a partner to convert that framework into a happiness quotient survey. And trust me, we spoke to some of the biggest names in the market. There was a very large global corporation who's known for their pioneering work in surveys. I spoke to Catherine somebody, let's just take a name like that, in their US office. And I said, listen, Catherine, would you help us convert this into a usable framework and therefore a questionnaire? She said, listen, will you sell it to us, Venky, is what she asked me. I said, listen, why would I sell it to you? Because she said it's a damn good product that we can use in the next lineup of products for us to sell to our clients. I said, no, sorry, this is not for sale. This is totally, internal to RPG, but we want you to be a partner. But anyway, it didn't work with her. And then we partnered with Mercer. And Mercer was delighted because they hadn't done anything like this globally. And Mercer merely converted our framework into a very crisp questionnaire, which had about 35 questions, and helped us run the survey as a neutral partner, because otherwise it wouldn't have the credibility that you need, to have it as a neutral, unbiased survey running across 35,000 people. So Mercer brought in that credibility. It shouldn't have otherwise been viewed as something which is run by HR or the management. In 2021, we did the first survey, and we arrived at a happiness quotient for each company and for the group as a whole. And we did it in 2022, and we did it in 2023, this year. And I must tell you, without getting into the details of the scoring, that we moved up 5% points from 2021 to this year. And I can tell you broadly, at the group level, we are in the mid-80s in terms of the happiness quotient. And some of our companies are very high. For example, we have a company called Harrison's Malayalam, the plantation company, where the happiness quotient is 97%. You can't get better than that. And mind you, this was a company which had huge challenges on the business front. Plantation industry, particularly tea prices, were depressed for more than a decade. Many years they did not earn bonus because their business metrics were not achieved. And yet they were the happiest set of people in our company. 15,000 people, 60% of them women, because plantation labor is essentially women, working in the hinterlands and estates of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. They're one of the happiest people in the country. So we learned what happiness means to a lot of our people, in spite of the fact that they were not one of the most highly paid set of employees in the group. We had far more aggressive salaries in our other group companies. They didn't earn bonus, like I told you, yet they were very high. But I think as a group, I think getting into the mid-80s in terms of the happiness quotient is not bad at all. And I keep joking and, half in seriousness, that listen, if I as Venky had 85% as a happiness quotient in my personal life, I would consider myself very fortunate, God's grace and all of that. So I think it's not bad. Across 35,000 people, we managed to hit the mid-80s. Now, is there a lot of stuff that employees are telling us in terms of what we need to do better? Of course. We slice and dice the happiness quotient along many parameters. For example, we look at what our tenured employees feel, What are women employees feel? What do the LGBTQ employees in our group feel? What do people who are GMRs, the group management resources, the best of the B school hires that we bring in from the premier institutes in India and around the world think? What does our top talent think about us in happiness? What do people in the front line, in sales or in factories or in project sites? KC, as I told you, is an EPC company who work in the hinterlands of India. At any time, they're putting up transmission towers or building railway lines in the most rural of the rural parts of the country, because that's their business. What do people like that think about us? Are they connected with corporate, what is happening? Do they relate to the gyan that we corporate folks normally dish out from head office? These are the questions we ask and we get answers. And so there's a lot of work that we pick up from each survey, taking the views of the people. We then went and implemented a follow-on action, which is we started giving happiness awards to our people. We said, listen, if you bring happiness into the company as a key, I call it both a means as well as the outcome for us. Then you've got to reward people who are creating happiness. So we have a happiness champions award framework, which recognizes individual members, team players, as well as leadership every quarter. And then we are now trying to look at the best of the best Apex Award across RPG, and it will be kind of presented on the Founders Day, which is March 1st for us. So that's been an interesting journey that we have done on happiness to kind of institutionalize this. And what did we do? We then dropped out of all the other surveys that we used to do. But when we launched happiness, we said, listen, this is the be all and end all of how we want to measure employee engagement. We then converted this happiness framework into everything that we do. For example, we use it in leadership interviews. The happiness quotient delivered by a leader determines whether he or she gets promoted. We have built it into our 360-degree evaluation framework, which happens every year across 15,000 employees who are not, they have people working for them, they are not individual contributors. So we try to bring the measure of happiness into everything, because otherwise it ends up as an esoteric piece of work, which we do as a survey and then everybody forgets about it. Next, we went and institutionalized happiness councils in each company, headed by a business person. So we put a rule saying no HR person will head it. It will be headed by either a CEO or a COO or a business head. And amazing work happens here. They are the people who determine who get the Champions Awards, not HR. And I think the culture of the larger organization owning happiness and not just it being an HR initiative has now got deeply ingrained in RPG. I will talk to you about something which also kind of reduces unhappiness, and that's also a way of driving happiness up. For example, we have put all our policies digitally on a very transparent website, so there is no ambiguity, no mystery, no opaqueness about what we do in anything that we do. We have gone into a culture of looking at emotional well-being of our people. 35,000 people and their employees get mental well-being assistance through a partner company of ours. We started it in the period just during the COVID, the pandemic, but we continued till now. We have a very strong continuous performance management, which means people are getting ongoing feedback and there are no unpleasant surprises at the end of the year. Fraternity is a way to get our kids of our employees and other group companies to come and work in Zensar, which has a huge hiring agenda. I think we are probably the only conglomerate which takes employees' children from other companies into Zensar, which is our IT services companies, which typically hires 2,000, 3,000 freshers each year. And finally, we are probably the only diversified conglomerate in the world to still have a perpetual post-pandemic hybrid work policy where up to 50% of the time, whether you are in manufacturing, whether you are in offices, whether you are in IT, you can be on a hybrid work and arrangement. As I'm speaking to you, I'm in Bangalore at home. I'm availing this benefit because I spend at least 10 days in a month in Bangalore, which is home for me, and then I go back to Bombay where I work from office. So I'm a living, walking example of this policy. And mind you, we extend it even to factories where if you're not on the shop floor or you're not on facilities or you're not in admin, you can actually be in a corporate function in a factory and still actually be on, work from home. So we've kind of democratized this very, this policy which people used to think was a privilege of only IT employees. Then there are a lot of policies which continue to come. So the suggestion or the proposal that I have for anybody who wants to get into this happiness journey is don't just stop at creating a framework. Start putting things which create more happiness. So we are probably, again, a only diversified conglomerate which has such a transparent promotion policy which is announced to all employees. So people actually know how they get promoted. So this came as a strong feedback to us for many years, saying, listen, we need better information, more transparency, less mystique about how promotions happen. We created something called the 24/7 anti-harassment helpline, where we have moved beyond POSH. POSH is passé, you've got to do it, it's statutory. But any kind of harassment, whether it is on the basis of religion, caste, region, language, body shaming, LGBTQ shaming, all of that you can come onto a helpline, and there are professional counselors who do it. So people told us that, listen, some of this actually has reduced the stress at work. And therefore, we believe that when we wake up on Monday morning and come, I'm really looking forward to being there in this RPG company. And therefore, for us, as I said before, reducing unhappiness is another way of promoting happiness. So the other thing which we consciously did to create more happiness is we actually did, we didn't have a very liberal LGBTQ benefits policy. We implemented that many years back, but we also went and did a heterosexual partners benefits policy, which I can tell you is not so common, even though you might think it logical. There's a lot of focus on LGBTQ, but heterosexual partners and including them in the benefits of the company, we have done that. We went and hired a large number of transgenders, and we don't look at this as a D&I initiative. All of us who've been in traffic signals and seen transgenders come and beg, our heart breaks looking at the plight of these people. We said, let's do it as a social good. It's not really D&I for us. And they are physically fit to do any kind of work in a factory. So we went and hired people, and we are going beyond diversity, which is gender diversity, which has been the focus for many years, and trying to make us a truly global corporation by hiring people, a lot of people of non-Indian origin. And, the problem with India-based multinationals like ours is the tendency is to go and hire a lot of desis everywhere, but we are trying to prevent that. So we also have an alumni circle, a digital platform where our 7,000 odd alumni connect with us, and we are trying to spread happiness into their community and through them into the larger society and the kind of individual connects that they have. So this is something which if you go on LinkedIn, you will see the RPG Alumni Circle, again, a digital platform. So overall, I think, we believe that happiness, the pursuit of happiness at this scale is probably something unique, probably the only global, company, a diversified conglomerate which pursues happiness through this framework at such a scale. Thank you very much.